Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the first of the 2025 business planning and goal setting classes. I typically try to do one before January 1 just because many of you like to get a jump on what's going on. If you do not know who I am, my name's Amanda Brewton. I am the owner of Medicare Answers Now, which is an FMO in Cleveland, Ohio. I've been in the industry for almost 20 years. I am known for the teaching and the education that I do throughout the industry. And today we are going to talk about how to candidly either get started into this industry or what do you need to do to go to the next level. This is it's the first in my foundational set of three classes that I recommend that you take just to level the playing field and to get you started with the knowledge that you need to move forward. Some of you will go, but I know it all. I guarantee you, you don't. Considering that I'm in the industry for 17 years and I learn something new every day, and I am considered by multiple people, including various legislators, an expert in this industry. If I'm learning, that means that you're learning. So there is no possible way that you know all of this stuff. And take that from me. Go with a little bit of grace. We are going to roll pretty quick. Put your questions in the Q&A or the chat. I will watch those and I am going to answer them real time for you as we go. I know that many of you are in my social media groups on Facebook, which is fantastic. And you are going to get a lot of your questions that you guys have had over the last couple of months answered today, as well as quite a few other things. I hate PowerPoints, but we are going to use one just so that I stay on task. This class will roll for the full 2 hours. Um, and then, like I said, I will get this uploaded and onto my YouTube channel, which is Insurance Unfiltered with Amanda Brewton. So by all means, like and subscribe to that channel so that way you stay abreast of the new content that comes out. We should be posting stuff pretty regularly, at least a couple of times a week. There'll be new content that is out there. Um, so moving right along, let me go ahead and share my screen. And for those of you that do not know, this is my website, MedicareAnswersNow.com. There is all sorts of information here. It also has the information about the conferences that I do. And we will actually, we're going to start with that, to be candid. So going into this, many of you, if you do not know, I have multiple conferences that I host, and some of them are, well, two of them are themed. One of them is Medicare Margaritas. That is my vacation themed event. It is deep dives. So this one is for agents that are wanting to truly build out their agency and sink their teeth into the material. This one is going to be held at the end of April, so it is April 28th through the 30th. This one is it's in its third year. It is two-hour deep dives each day. We go, first day is strategic management, staffing, systems, all of that kind of back office type of stuff. Then the second day is a full day on marketing. I teach a three-prong marketing approach, which you'll hear more about later. And we spend a full day building out that marketing plan and things that you need to keep in mind when building out a marketing plan. The last day is about cross-selling. Do you have the right products in your portfolio? Hearing from the vendors and the carriers, as well as answering any questions that you may have that for any of the material that you've learned throughout the conference. So that is Medicare Margaritas. It is held at Orange Beach, Alabama. Highly recommend that if you really want to sink your teeth into a workshop style conference. Medicarians is an industry trade show. It is the largest trade show in our industry. That one is March 31st to April 2nd. That one is, you can get a free ticket. You go to Medicarians. Actually, there's a link right here. So if we click into here, I'm going to put this into the chat box, but this gives you a free hosted ticket so that all you have to do is register and then get your travel set up. This will have approximately 4,000 people attending. It is the movers and the shakers. It is anybody that you can think of that is in our industry. It is where you will learn about the industry as a whole, learn how products are designed. You'll learn about the latest new technology that's out there. They also have an ACA summit that goes on at the same time. So it is a super cool one to go ahead and do. I am the sponsor and creative director for the Agent Symposium, which is that Monday. So I highly recommend that you fly in on a Friday, or sorry, you fly in on a Saturday, on a Sunday, and then you fly out that Thursday, the 3rd, because there is a concert that they close with at the end of the event on the 2nd. The last one, but not least, is my pride and joy, which is Ms. Medicare. It is going into its 5th year. That one is held in Cleveland, Ohio. That is a women only conference. Although I do have two of the coolest guys that I know that help out with that event. The first is Jameson Keller of NCD. He sees the event so that way I can not have to run around like a lunatic and actually talk with the guests that are at that event. And then George Beach last year did a live on the red carpet, although it's pink glitter, and it was an awesome cool type of thing so that the ladies got to show off their dresses because it is a take on Miss Congeniality and it is pageant themed. So everybody actually does wear ball gowns for the first day of the event. It is a lot of fun. So those are the conferences that I do, just to give you some high level as far as all of that goes. Hope to see you at one of them, if any of them turn you on. And if not, budget for the possibility of coming. If you want to find out any more on those, go to MedicareAnswersNow.com to find out more. So we have a ton of stuff that we're going to go through today. We are going to talk about how to build a business plan. How many of you guys have built a business plan before? Actually put it in writing and done a business plan? Sound off in the chat for me. How many of you does it freak out about the actual possibility of doing one and you're going, oh my God, I don't want to go ahead and write a 40-page yuck on that? Okay. So you will laugh when I tell you this, but my business plans are a one-page high school outline. So they don't have to be these massive, long, elaborate um, documents that have every little, did I breathe today? Did I remember to eat eat type of a thing? I have written everything from back in my corporate days. For those of you that don't know, I used to work for Aetna, used to work for Anthem, and then I got sick and went out on my own. Um, when I started building my business plans, and I no longer had to do a 46-page presentation on it for Aetna, I went to more of a skeleton version of a high school outline. You know what I'm talking about. The I and then the subset A's and then the subsets um, 1, 2, 3, and then the lowercase, ABC. That's kind of how I build my outline, where the big things or the big items are my Roman numerals. And then I build into that the action items for each thing. So this is not an end all be all. Take what I'm going to give you for face value and as a suggestion, as a starting point. Many of you have not had anything formal like this, or it's a totally different way of thinking, which is why I'm having you do it. And primarily, it's so that that way, if you don't know where you're going, how the hell can you get to where you want to be, right? And too many people that I have worked with over the course of my career, the biggest problem that I find with them is they are so scattered and there's no sense of direction or prioritizing that they get stuck. It's like being stuck in really dense mud and you keep spinning your wheels. And the harder that you keep spinning them and you keep turning your wheel to try and get out of it, the worse you're making it. Many of you do that. And that is what this whole class is about, is trying to dial you back, having you shift some of you for the first time where your thinking is, and then have it so that we can set you up for success moving forward into next year and beyond, right? So, other things that I need to tell you, because I've got quite a few new people on here. I practice what I preach, guys. I'm pretty straightforward. So, I will say, you know what, hey, we're gonna cut the shit. I'm gonna give it to you direct. The mistakes that I've made, I'm gonna share with you. I will use myself as an example just because I did this before and I used other agents as examples, but not by name. And some of them got butthurt because they felt called out because they kind of did some of these things. And that was an issue. One, get tougher skin. And two, if you find yourself being called out, then you may need to look at that, do some self-reflection, and look at how you move yourself forward. Constructive criticism, you have to be able to take it. You have to be able to take it not only from your mentors, your spouse, your loved ones, as well as your colleagues, but you have to continually be able to have somebody look at you and go, you know what? I think you need to do this, this, and this to be better, and take that with an open mind. Some of you, and not to say that it's anybody on this call, but on previous classes, they're like, they're not on it. They cannot handle it. It is their way and they know best, and yet they're still having issues trying to get to that next stop, that next place. So that is basically what today is designed for and how we're going to go ahead and go through it. So we are going to go through things like what to consider when doing a business plan. We're going to talk about goals. We're going to talk about doing a self-assessment. Some of this I touched on when we did the AEP What Now video, so I'm not going to go in nearly the amount of detail. So if you did not catch that video, you will definitely want to go ahead and log into the YouTube channel to find it. But we're also going to talk about assessing your personal strengths and weaknesses as well as the business's strengths and weaknesses. We will talk about staffing. We are going to talk about setting up an agency and all the different ways that you can do that. There is no cookie cutter way. And candidly, you own a business. You are the boss. You get to make the rules, which can be great. And then for others, that can be your worst nightmare. And I'm going to help guide you through all of that so that that way, you have an idea of where to go. And that's really what we are looking at talking about today. So, just to give you a little bit more information about us, as I said, I am a field marketing organization. I've got a staff of about 16 here in Cleveland. We're licensed in 41 states. I have to update the map because I do have Montana and the Dakotas now. I'm known for the training and the coaching, and candidly, we have all the tools and bells and whistles that every other FMO has. The difference is that where my sweet spot is that one-on-one coaching and helping you move forward and customizing it to you specifically. Contact information is right there. If you do not have it, take a snapshot of this. My email's real easy. It's Amanda at MedicareAnswersNow.com. That is the picture of my office. Um, Phone number there is the office phone number. And by all means, follow me on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Many of you know that I do a ridiculous amount of content there. And tell your other agent friends. Several of you have asked and said, well, I'm not interested in moving contracts or doing anything like that. And that is totally fine. But you've asked, how else can I help you? Tell a friend. If you like my content, share it with your other colleagues. Because God knows I can probably help them too. And you know what? The bigger that audience gets, the more fun that we have, right? So, do I let men join? Always. I've got quite a few guys that are on this call right now. I am not isolated in that. It just ended up that back in 2021, when I started the Ms. Medicare conference, you had a lot of people that were pissed off that I created a women's conference. And I got pigeonholed into being women only, and people saying that I hate men, which some of you are laughing at that, going, it couldn't be further from the truth. So there is no limit there. It just ends up that because I tend to change the industry in multiple ways, it ends up that I got there's been stereotypes that have been made. So very long-winded answer, but yes, anybody can join, and I do have everybody and anybody join. I've had carrier reps and carrier executives on my calls. I have had CMS on my calls. I have had all sorts of things. And like Lizzie says, I am trying to change the stereotype of what an insurance agent is, and what our industry looks like. And I am changing that one rhinestone at a time. So, and having a one hell of a time doing it. So, that is me in a nutshell. This is my part of my staff. It's not all of them, but there are their lovely faces, and it shows you that I am more than a one-man shop. I do have a 3,700 square foot office in Cleveland, and many of them work here at the office or they work remote. I also have a virtual assistant team. I have 6 virtual assistants in El Salvador that work with us as well, which I will talk to you guys about that as well as something when we get into the staffing section of this webinar. So those are all the different places that you can find me. Most of follow my personal Facebook and LinkedIn page, and then I have 2 Facebook groups. One is open to anybody and everybody. That's my Medicare Marketing and Motivation Facebook group, and then Ms. Med, of course, is women only. And there are different things that are discussed in both. Ms. Med is self-esteem, self-care, how to juggle households, and that kind of stuff. In addition to the Medicare stuff, the Medicare Marketing Motivation one is more mindset and business acumen. I guess that's the easiest way to explain the difference on them. So moving into business planning and what you need to take a look at, where your mindset is. The biggest thing about being your own business owner is that it's your way. You have the ability every year to step back, take a look at your business and go, is this really working for me or not? Are there things that I want to get better at or not? When you work for somebody else, you're doing and dancing to their tone and their tune. And the thing is that that's not necessarily bad. Some of you will be like, you know what? I don't want the headache of worrying about employment law and HR, and I don't want to worry about having um to pay monthly and quarterly taxes and unemployment and business insurance and liability messes and worrying about being sued because somebody tripped on a carpet somewhere. You want to be able to sell, come in, do your job, make the money, and turn around and roll out. And that is totally fine. Others of you want your own business. You want to run it as you see fit, do what you want to do when you want to do it, and not have to answer to somebody. And that is perfectly fine with both sides of this. And the trick is going ahead and identifying what works well for you, as well as how you move toward your own personal goals. So every year I come off the road in September. And for those that don't know, I typically teach from January to August, and I travel all over the country. And I also do a ton of webinar, but then at the same time, I come off the road and then I start as my agents are off selling and they're in their busy season. I'm actually 3 months to 6 months ahead of them doing all of my business planning. So all of the things that I teach you, I've already done by the time that we have this class. So I step back and I look at it and go, okay, well, what do I like about this past year? What do I like about what's gone on with my business? What has happened that I'm looking at going, this is for the birds. I'm not doing it again. What has to change personally? These are all questions that you want to ask yourself when you start doing a business in review, as well as where are you looking at moving forward? So, this past year, we will finish out 2024 doing just over 1.3 million in income. Super excited about that because that's not half bad for 4 years. Add on top of it, then I'm looking at, okay, where was I last year and where is the growth? Where do I think we can hit for this upcoming year? So this next year, given that I've got my staffing in place and I've gotten my um staff trained into they're not new. It's a 1 year training process with me. So they have 1 year in under their belt. So now we're able to turn up the volume a little bit more and everybody can take on more responsibility, right? So this year it's okay. Well, sales goals wise, what does that look like? For me, income wise, my next goal and my next benchmark is I want to go after $2 million plus. Some of you, it may be that you're just starting out, and it may be that your goal is um, doing Medicare specifically, you're doing one app consistently a day. It may be that you are looking at, you know what, I need my income to be, because I'm doing this part-time, I need my income to be an extra $30,000 this year. Or I'm working this full-time and last year I hit $50,000 and this year, because of where we're at, we're looking at, I'm trying to gun for $75,000. You want to look at what those goals are, and they need to be personal. You also need to look at um, other changes. So last year, I spent a ridiculous amount of time in airports. I was in a different city, sometimes different state, every other day. I was doing red eyes, getting off of a plane and going into the next event, literally from the airport, because I take it gone coast to coast. Those are things that you want to look at and go, I don't know, did I like and did I enjoy doing and pushing myself that hard to go to those events this year? No. So this year, I'm toning it down. I still am traveling once a month, but I'm also going ahead and going to put more focus on working one-on-one with the agents that I work with, as well as doing a ton of social media stuff, as well as rolling out CE instruction for multiple states. So that's a personal goal. Another one is oh, I don't know, me actually having groceries in my house and being able to exist a better work-life balance. For me, it's been out of whack for the last 3 years. That was the agreement that I gave, well, 5 years. I gave myself personal goals. One, it was to get my health better so that I could eat and function like a human. Then it was, okay, we've done that. Now let's go ahead and let's get some staff in there and let's make sure that I'm sleeping regularly every day. Small steps. They don't have to be these big, elaborate things that you're trying to go after. Look at your short term. What do you want to do in the next 12 months? And what do you want to do as larger goals? So, one of the goals that I have, which many of you know, is that I got my dream job. I There isn't a rate like a career wise. I won my race. I know I'm good at what I do. I have an agency that is profitable, that I love my job and I love doing what I do. I am recognized all over the country for being an expert in my industry. So for me, I've achieved my personal career high. Some of you, that career high may be that you look at other creators that are flashing Lamborghinis and Rolexes and they're driving, they're riding in private jets. If that's what turns you on, great. That is your personal goal. It's not mine. I travel. That is what I live for. I do one major trip every year, and that's where my sales goals come from, is what is it going to take for me to be able to do XYZ trip for this year, next year, and 2026, right? So you have to identify what those goals are, and they're very personal. Don't let anybody talk you out of your goals. They also should scare you. Your goals should not be safe. They shouldn't be goals that you're like, there is no way in hell that I can get that. But they should be big enough where you're like, oh my God, I think I can do that, but I need to try and figure out how to make that happen. So my stretch goal is the 2 million plus. My outlandish goal that somewhere in the course of this career, I want a house in Tuscany. It is the weirdest thing that I want, but I do. I want to retire with a house in Tuscany. And you know what? It's possible that I can make that happen. It's going to take some work and it's going to take several years. It's not something that will happen in the next 2, 3 years, but it's something to shoot for. And it's something that would be super cool to retire and do, right? So those are the things that you want to go ahead and take a look at. Megan, where do the sales goals numbers come off of? So you need to track your business. You need to use a CRM, a client management system, to be able to monitor what's coming in the door, what's going out. You need to be able to monitor a P&L, a profit and loss statement. You need to be managing your books. So we're going to talk a little bit further more about some of that um, as we go through today, because I've got you for another hour and a half. So stay along with me. Don't lose sight of that. We'll go, right? So, Dixie, the CRM and the CPA, yep, we're going to talk about that as well. So the first thing that when you are looking at doing your goal setting, you need to look at your year in review. So if you watched or were on the call that I did about AEP planning, you know that, and I mention them every time I teach, but I am a fan of notebooks. I have 3 of them at my desk, and I will show you I have 3 of them at my desk. Here's 1, here's 2, and here's 3. So some of you are going, why the hell do you have 3 notebooks and what's the purpose? This is a best practice I have been teaching for about 15 years now, and there's a logic to it. It's not just that I'm batshit crazy. We know this, but that's not why. So the first notebook that I have is my everyday notebook. This is where I keep my notes about whatever appointment that I've taken, any follow-up items that I need to do, what has to happen. That's what this notebook is. I have one of these in both of my purses, so that if I take appointments or I'm traveling, I have one with me. I also have one here at the office. If you use a Rocketbook or any of those kinds of electronic notebooks, that's fine. But you want to have something that you're using. The next one that I have is a marketing notebook, which we will talk about in a little bit once I get to that slide. And then I have my third notebook, which is my best practice notebook. That is the one that you're going to dig out when you are looking at doing your business planning and your goal setting. That is the one that in the next 6 weeks, your FMO or upline, as well as every carrier that you have, is going to start asking you questions about what went well this AEP and what didn't. And I don't know about you, but most of you will not remember what happened in July and whether you had trouble with Humana's certification site or WellCare not sending kits on time, or you started too late with your certification and did it the last week of September and couldn't understand why it is that your enrollment platforms weren't ready at the same time. That is what that one notebook is for, and you keep it throughout the year because you want to look at things that went well throughout the year and what didn't. I had an agent slide in my DMs last night who it's a friend, and he says, so I need to ask. And I said, okay. And he says, you do so much training for other people. And I don't quite understand what's in it for you for doing that. And my mission is, like I said, to change the stereotype of what an insurance agent is. My money will come along the way as I do the right thing and as I have people that want to work with me, right? And he goes, okay. And he says, well, I don't understand what's more gratifying, building the agent or doing all this content that you did. And my answer was that they're actually one and the same. And most people don't understand that. It's the same thing that I teach you guys to do. You don't just start working October 1st, right? You don't just out of the blue say, okay, it's AEP. I can now market for the upcoming season. And then wham, everything is going to be gangbusters and everything's going to be great. You have done a lot of work all throughout the year to be able to get to that point, to be able to have a successful AEP. This is what that notebook is for. The notebook is so that you can go back and go, okay, well, last year I didn't do any development training. I didn't go to any conferences. I didn't reinvest in myself, and I paid for it come AEP because I didn't know about the latest changes in the rules. And or I didn't understand why the Inflation Reduction Act was such a big deal when people started screaming about it come May. These are why you do that, is so that that way, when we're now talking about it, you can stay ahead of the curve and go, okay, well, you know what? Now I need to pay more attention. Now I understand that, you know what? Every week I need to take from January to August, I need to take between 1 to 3 trainings every week to help fine tune and develop my skill set to be a better boss, a better agent, and just be more effective at what I do. It doesn't just happen. You have to be deliberate with what you're doing. If there isn't any intent to it, it makes no sense. So my answer to him was I listen very, very carefully all through AEP from July when you guys start recertification to the end of AEP December 7th, December 15th, well now December 18th, just because they gave the extension. And I'm looking for weaknesses. Not only just the weaknesses within my team, but in myself, in my staff, and in you guys in the agent community. And then I build the education to strengthen those weaknesses. Do you see where I'm going? So this goes back into the lead with intent and lead by example. So if this is what I'm doing to then prepare you guys to have a successful 2026, which is next fall's AEP, that's how that's done. Everything that I do from September forward is with the intent of getting you better come next year. Because September, everything that you learn, everything that has sunk into that head of yours, now it's a time to apply it all. And if you haven't learned the skills between January to June, you're dead in the water. And that's where we're at. So let's talk about timeline and why this is so important. You are not going to change the government's timeline. You can wish all you want, but there is a reason why the timeline is the way that it is. The 2026 rules of engagements, the proposed rule came out a couple of weeks ago. I am going to be discussing that on Wednesday. That is the proposal of what CMS thinks is a good idea for next fall and next AEP's plan designs for what the carrier as well as we are going to do for next AEP, October 25, right? That happens. The open comment period is January 27th. That's when it closes. Then from there, we don't get the new changes and set in stone until first week of April, which is right when Medicarians is, which is why the first panel at Medicarians is to discuss the final rule and the rules of engagement for that upcoming October, right? So in your first quarter is what did you do well? What did you miss the mark on? What types of development things do you need to move forward? Do you need to look at and assess every business relationship that you have? Do you have the right partners to help you get to the goal that you have? And more often than not, what you started out with as business partners may very well change because your needs changed. You didn't know what you didn't know when you first started into the business. Now, as you get more acclimated and you learn from other colleagues and you find out where you're going to go, now you have to step back and assess those around you to figure out are they going to get you to that next level? And then you've got to also figure out what your part is in whether they can help you get to the next level. And it's just a matter of you saying, I need the help. Or is it that they just don't have the skill set to be able to get you to where you need to be? Either thing is fine. But when you are assessing that, that has to happen in first quarter. Some of you have asked about, you know what, I got set up, I got contracted with my social security number. My accountant or whoever told me all I had to do was sign up and use my social, and I'm good with that, except now I've grown so big that I need to hire people. I'm looking to hire additional producers. I'm looking at hiring admin staff. Well, if that's the case, then you actually have to step back and look at, you need to actually set up a business. It was fine when it was just you and it's smaller income and it's not that big of a deal. The game changes when you start hiring people, and then you need to look at, do you need to set up a formal agency with a tax ID, with actually brick and mortar? Or are you okay still working at the out of the house? If you decide that you want to go ahead and set up an agency, all of that contracting and setting that up needs to happen. Guess when? First quarter of this year. And you don't want to do it. I had agents at the end of August asking to set up an insurance, set up their agency right then. I laughed. Are you high? You don't have enough time to do that and prep for OEP annual enrollment. There's not enough time to do this effectively. So those are all things that we are going to get into the weeds on today and go, okay, what do we want to be when we grow up? How are we going to get there? What do I focus on next? And where do we need to go? Some of you don't have 40 bucks or 60 bucks or, $100 a month to invest in a CRM tool. Okay. But then you're also talking about hiring assistants. Are you out of your mind? You need to first invest in your systems, meaning at the very least, you need a CRM. You need to get a spreadsheet together. Some of you aren't tracking your sales. Some of you aren't tracking your prospects. I had an agent I worked with for 15 years that he did it as a part-time gig and then turned around and said, well, I've only been going after T65 and during AEP, and I bought leads all across the year, throughout the years. Now I'm going out on my own. So how do I market myself? And I said, you should have tens of thousands of people for the years that you have been working in this industry that are prospects of yours that are in a system somewhere. And he goes, no. I said, what do you mean, no? He goes, well, yeah, every time that I went ahead and I took an appointment with somebody that was turning 65 and they told me that they had a different agent or that they went somewhere else or they continued to work, I just threw it in the garbage and I didn't do anything with that lead ever again. I said, wait a minute, let me get this straight. You paid money for leads for somebody to contact you. They contacted you and said it's not a fit right now. And your answer to that was to throw it out? He goes, well, yeah. No. Just because it's a no right now does not mean it is no for forever. Anyone that contacts you regarding insurance should go into a spreadsheet or a CRM like Agency Block, Medicare Pro, Go Guru, Go High Level. Um, there's bunches of them out there. I like Agency Block. I'm an Agency Block girl. You want to put anyone that contacts you for insurance in that CRM, regardless of whether they tell you no right now, so that next AEP or whenever you want to cross sell, you have the ability to pull that back out and send the emails or send the paper mail. But you have to have that so that way it's out there. You want it for marketing purposes. John's right. You want to have that so that it's there so that way you have those best practices. Valerie says everyone that calls my office is forwarded to my CRM automatically. Great best practice. You have to keep that in mind. You paid for that. You want to be able to go back and message those people. That's the value add to that. Okay. So, first and foremost, the first thing that you spend money on is a cell phone, a dedicated office line, a dedicated CRM. You need to have a laptop or a desktop, some kind of computer. I prefer a laptop so that I can travel with one. I use a Dell. All of my PCs are Dell. And when you get a laptop, make sure that you put a password on the main screen or a fingerprint. And you also want to make sure that your security level on any internet is with a VPN. My cell phone service is through Verizon. You can ask them about their VPN service, but that gives you extra security when you are anywhere hooking into a public Wi-Fi and any other reason. It gives you the extra security that you need to protect your data. And stealing data is a very real thing. We know this, right? So those are the first key things that you want to look at when you are assessing this upcoming year. Do you have the right tools? At the bare minimum, those are what you need. You need a laptop, a cell phone, and a CRM. Flat out. Once you have those that you are paying for and that you have purchased that are part of what you've got going on, then you can build other things into that. Okay. So, Lori says I use my hotspot from my phone to my laptop in public. Yep, that's what you want to do wherever possible. So, when we go ahead and we look at, you know, like I said, you've got the what went well. You've got the where's the opportunity. The next piece of the puzzle is, do you have people that are around you that can go ahead and tell you like it is? You missed the mark here. Here's where I think you can be doing better. Here's things that I would look at fine tuning. I do this every year, every January. I meet with several of my mentors, if you will, and business partners. And what we do is we go back and we do a year in review. I clue them into where I'm going to go with my goals for next year. And then we look together at how we are going to get there. Okay. Is this being recorded? Yes, it will be on my YouTube channel, which for those of you that need it again, it is Insurance Unfiltered with Amanda Brewton. Jake, the other tools that we're going to build on, stay tuned. We've got way more to cover in this, and I'm going to break it all off, so you'll see it. Okay, so when we talk about uplines, and I really want you guys to take a snapshot of this particular screen. You need to understand that your contracts are of your control. I'm going to say that again. Your contracts are of your control. You have the ability of choosing which uplines you want to work with. If you want them all with one upline versus using a couple of them. You have the ability of choosing by carrier how you want those contracts disseminated. Some of you will say, you know what? I don't want all of my eggs in one basket, so I'm going to split my contracts between a couple of different uplines. So Tidewater Management is going to get Cigna, Aetna, and Humana, and I'm going to get Medicare Answers Now is going to get Anthem, United, and WellCare. Others of you will look at it and go, I want to go ahead and I want them all in one spot, which you can do. Pick one entity and have them do all of your contracts. Do I use Spark? No. I am not under Integrity. I am not under AmeriLife. I roll my contracts through an organization called TLC Insurance Group. Some of my other contracts are through JSA, which is Jack Schroeder and Associates out of Wisconsin. TLC is out of Warren, Ohio. But we are not with an equity backer, like Integrity or AmeriLife, and Spark is actually a competitor of ours. But you know what? Pick your flavor. Everybody has their different one as to what they're looking at, and you want to interview your business partners when you are looking at changing. You want to ask them, why should you choose them? What do they have to offer? You also need to understand that any change that you make in your hierarchy and your upline, you need to start that process now. And hear me when I say that. Evaluate your business partners now. Give yourself a due date that any intent to move needs to be done by May 28th. And the reason why that is that every single carrier, except for your life carriers, has a specific to Medicare Advantage plans, has a 90-day move. So you can get out of any contract that you have with filling out an intent to release, and 90 days later, then you can move. That intent to release is filed with the carrier, and every carrier has a different process. But you want to establish that. And if you're making a change, you want to have that done no later than the end of May, so that way you have enough time, those 90 days, so that when the blackout period happens, come some carriers it's September, some it's October, you want to be able to have that all done and knocked out. The other thing to keep in mind when you are looking at your business partners, my latest analogy is, think of it like dating, guys. If you are in a relationship with somebody and you're not happy and you're looking at going somewhere else, you need to have the respect for the relationship to say something to whoever it is and say, I'm not getting what I need. There's a couple of things that may happen. One, you don't know you forgot what they offer, and you ask for it and you get everything that you asked for because you asked. And either you didn't know it was provided, they added new things available that you missed the emails on, or they value the business and what you've done to be able to then save it and tweak that out for you. Use your words and have a conversation with your upline before you leave them. If it's that they are not following through with what they promised you, or that the customer service that you got was really bad during AEP and they weren't there when you needed them, okay, well, then you need to evaluate and look to move to another organization. And those are all very valid. But tell them when you leave why it is that you're bouncing so that they can get better and improve themselves. The other thing when you are looking at making this change, when you go find a new home, interview 3 to 5 of them before you settle on one. Do your homework. Ask your questions to figure it out. If you have moved 2, 3, 4 different times, I am going to tell you to look at yourself. Sit down and look at yourself. Are you putting realistic expectations on the organization? Are you expecting them to do your homework for you? I have had agents leave me after they went, I want and I expect to make $5,000 a month, and you need to help get me there. And that example, I went to her and said, okay, I've given you all the tools. I've told you what you need to do. Did you do any of it? No. Are you working this full time? No. Hell no. I do this and do 3 other side gigs. So you're not doing what I asked you to do. You're not working this as a full-time job. How is this my problem that you aren't getting what you need as your goal because you're not working this effectively? Think about that for a minute. I have agents all the time that are like, I mean, that's why there's such a high failure rate with insurance is that they want to be their own boss. They think it's great because then they can do what they want. They can go to the pool when they want. They can take their summers off and play with the kids and all the other things. I've had agents where I've spent $5,000, $10,000 in marketing for them because they were a go-getter and all on it, only to have them turn around and come back and go, "Yeah, I just got a boyfriend and I've been spending time with them and I didn't have time to call any of the leads and all of the stuff that we just did or that you invested in me." Um, so yeah, I'm out. But can you do that again? Can you give me more leads because we broke up? Think I did it? Those are things that you have to ask yourself, and they're hard questions. That's a hard mirror to look at yourself when you miss the boat. But I could tell you story after story after story. There is a reason why most FMOs say that you have got to have some kind of buy-in with what you're doing. Because otherwise, if I silver platter it, you won't do it. You won't value it. I have that happen all day long. I've had that for the 20 years that I've been in the industry handing money to as a carrier rep out. Those are the things that you want to be careful of. Okay. So look at your business partners, make the change. Is it beneficial to have more than one FMO? Just depends on your school of thought. Some want to learn from two different entities. Some want the bells and whistles between the two. Others go, screw that. I want one place. I want one person to hold accountable. I want one system that I learn to do all my quoting and enrollments and all those things. So it isn't a straight answer. It just depends on what your preference is as to how that looks. So, um, Valerie, I'm having a hard time separating as a producer and as an agency owner. It's like having different businesses. It is. And what it is that you wear different hats. So, and then if you're have a downline, that's another hat. If you go ahead and many of us wear multiple hats in a day, and the trick is to compartmentalize it so then you're able to move forward with that, right? So, contracting, evaluate it, make your deadline, get your stuff figured out, put your intents in no later than end of May, and then that way you're ready for next AEP. It just makes sense. Uplines, I'm going to go real quick on this. You've got two options. You either have one option, which is where you're paid by an organization. You are what's referred to as LOA or licensed only. And then you have another one where you're paid directly by the carrier. And that is where you are independent. If you are LOA or captive, they own your business. You do not own it. Usually with that, they are promising you a salary. They're promising you benefits. They're promising you marketing money or office help or free CRMs. Hell, I've seen them offer all sorts of different things. But if someone else is cutting you a check for whatever production that you have, they own your business. If the carrier is paying you, you own your business and you have flexibility. Okay. If you are licensed only, and Carmen, are you asking about upline change or how your contract is? Which one are you asking on? If it is upline and you moved your contracts because you went from Niche Less Fleming to Tidewater and Tidewater to me or to Premier or any of the other organizations, the only thing that changes if you are being paid by the carrier as you were set up, If the carrier pays you, your book of business is your book of business. It moves with you. The only thing that changes is who's getting the override. When you are getting paid by an agency, so Health Markets is an LOA agency. If you work for any of the smaller agencies as an employee or a W2, where they're giving you, or you work in a call center environment. You work in a call center environment, you're getting a salary and benefits, and you're getting, let's say, a little bit of money for every app that you do plus a bonus. Leave that call center. The call center owns the business that you wrote. That, when you leave, you start all over somewhere else. That's how that works contractually. If you are getting paid by the carrier, then you own the business. Um, if you're vested in LOA, does that change what happens with the current business? That's going to depend on the employment contract. So if somebody has it where they say, hey, come work with us and we're going to help you, we're going to pay you, and we're going to do all of these things. And if you make it to year 3 or year 5, then you are considered fully vested. And if you leave after year 3 or year 5, then you own your business or have the right to purchase it. That is an option, but you have to read the employment contract that you sign at the time that you start working with them. If you are working with with an upline that is having it where you get paid direct, you don't have to worry about any of that. You're vested, you own your book, so you're totally fine. Um, so the only thing that is different with that is the under 65 business. So under 65 business, that comes 80% of that, if not 90% of that, is paid by an upline. It is not paid direct by many of the carriers, so that way, um, so in that respect, the upline has to pay you because the carrier doesn't have the ability to. There are some lines of business that do that where it's weird and it's wonky, but Medicare, MedSup, and life insurance, you have that choice to go ahead and do it. U65 is where it's weird. Julie, yes, you are jumping the gun about GAs. Give me a minute. I gotta go through that yet. We're still working. Um, yes, very often when you work as an LOA or a captive agent, you do have a non-compete that says that you are not allowed to go ahead and take clients with you, or you're not allowed to market in the same geographical area as that agency. And those non-competes can be anywhere from 6 months up to 5 years, depending on what you sign. And some of them have been yucky, but you do want to be aware of that and how that works when you are evaluating your business relationship. So, getting into the GA stuff. So, what's the difference between a GA and MGA and FMO and NMO and IMO and all the alphabet soup? A GA is a local level. It is a small agency that is a handful of agents. They are doing a little bit of volume, so therefore they're getting a little bit of baby money from the FMO to say, hey, we are going to take these 5, 6, 7 agents. We are going to do ride-alongs with them. We're going to teach them how to go out in the community. We are going to help them build their business on an everyday level. And for that level of everyday training, the upline gives them an override to do that. An MGA is a bigger version of that. They usually have a couple hundred agents underneath them or up to a couple hundred agents. They typically sell in multiple states. They are doing larger training. They typically don't do the side-by-sides and stuff like that. They're also offering training and marketing and things that are different. So GA is granular, everyday training. Where do I go for an ID card? How do I do this? Can I sit and listen to a call? Can I go with you on appointments type of stuff? MGA is higher training, higher level training with your carriers. It is business development tools. They usually have GAs underneath them. The next one from there is an FMO, IMO, NMO. These are the grand poobahs. These are the one that basically right now in social media land, everybody and their brother is calling themselves an FMO, which I find absolutely comical. And there's different levels of that. So a top level carrier, a top level contract with a carrier is only given out to like 20 entities. Some of them have like two. Kaiser did that. They rolled out their broker channel and they only offered the contract to two people, two entities. And then all of the other GAs, FMOs, anybody that wanted to get contracted had to hook into those two companies. There is not a single FMO out there that has 100% top line contracts with every single carrier. Not one. And anyone that tells you that is lying because the carriers deliberately do that where that isn't possible. We all play nice in the sandbox for the most part when it comes to contract offerings, how to get them, and all of the things. What an FMO does though is they are responsible for offering you those tools that literally cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I've had agents that are like, well, my FMO doesn't do anything for me. Well, do you use a quoting and enrollment tool? Well, yeah. Well, do you use an Intel system like CSG? Well, yeah. Well, do you have a pro shop that has generic marketing stuff in it? Yeah. Each one of those costs hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars to offer to their contracted agents. So those types of things that allow you the opportunity to sell more are what is out there that then turns around, and that is what the FMO is responsible for. They are not going to do the side-by-side meeting with you. There are other people underneath them that will, but they're going to buy those really expensive things that GA cannot afford. And that is primarily what the difference is. Okay. What is the minimum production normally on a GA contract? It's going to depend. So it depends on if I do my targets, I want a minimum of 100 apps total for the year. Ideally, and then some carriers, it's by carrier. So MGA contracts, you're putting up, anywhere between 1,000 to 1,500 apps during the year, AEP included, and that is just MA or MedSup. If you are looking, PDP does not count at all. And life insurance is a whole other product line. So it varies, and under 65 is a totally different thing. So it varies depending on how you are looking at going and with those conversations. I have agents that they're brand new 1 year in and they've sold 20 policies and they think that they're doing an override. And I laugh. You barely know how the hell to sell something that you've put in 20 apps in the year and are demanding an override. You're out of your mind. If you are consistently doing 20 apps a month, oh, let's talk. Then that becomes something that's an opportunity. But it is funny to see what other people demand because they think that, oh, well, I'm doing 50 apps in a year, and that's not enough to get overrides. You don't have enough time to try. You're not doing enough production to even cut your teeth to show someone else how to do this business, let alone pick up overrides. So when you change your upline, it affects new business only. The previous upline still gets paid renewals on the past clients. Correct. Is there any way to transfer the whole book of business? Only if you sell it. And even then, they're still going to get the past overrides. On setting a business to the contracted with the carriers, does it mean that they will pay on my EIN rather than my SOCH, where my license is, or on the Social Security? So the answer to that is it's going to depend on how you contract. So if you move from one FMO to another, you have to go like to like. If you got contracted as an individual and you want to change your hierarchy to a different FMO, you go individual to individual, and then you wait 6 months, and then you do contract as an agency. Or you stay where you're at, recontract as an agency, wait until that goes through, wait 6 months after it goes through, and then move to the new organization. But you cannot do both at the same time unless you are doing that with brand new, never appointed with ever in your life contracts, because it doesn't work that way. The small single states blues only work with single FMO. That is correct. Most of them are. What is an override? An override is money that the carrier pays an entity like myself, like Premier Senior Market Sales, um, Health Markets, Tidewater, Niche Loss Fleming, any of the larger FMOs. Um, Shiloh needs to move under my desk. Sorry, guys. Those are, they get paid by the carrier to be responsible for your training, to make sure you're compliant, to help you market. There's a whole list of criteria that they are responsible for to aid in you selling more business and doing that compliantly. So that is primarily how that is done. Good question. Um, that answers Megan's question also about what's to expect and how that works. Um, how do I know which FMO has a specific carrier like Kaiser? You ask your upline. So all day, every day, I get asked, I heard about this company called Clover. Do you have them as a contract? Yeah. I heard Devoted's coming into Colorado. Do you have Devoted? Yes. I heard that or Medical Mutual of Ohio just merged with Paramount. Do you have the Paramount and the MMO contracts? Yes. If I don't have them, like Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama, they have a handful of contracts that they offer to independent insurance agents. Do I have that contract? No. Do I know people that are authorized to sell it? Yes. Do I have uplines that have a waiting list of people that are looking to get contracted with that carrier? Yes, and I can refer you to them. So that's primarily how that works, Dwayne. At one point, should you contract as an agency? When you start looking at adding staff. So, if you are looking at adding a assistant, if you are looking at adding additional producers, usually my pain point that I recommend is about 600 clients is where you want to add somebody on for growth and to go to the next level. And that's when I would go ahead and I would look at setting up an agency. If you make more than $100,000 a year, you need to set up an LLC. Let me repeat that again. If you make more than $100,000 a year, go talk to your CPA, and I highly recommend that you set up an agency and get set up as an LLC or an S Corp. The amount of tax write-off and deductions that you can take are better, and it limits your liability if you set up as an entity. So those would be your benchmarks for setting up as an agency. Usually, you have to be set up as an agency in order to receive overrides and look at going into a GA contract. More often than not, that is the case. And yes, I'm sure that there are somebody that is going to go, nuh-uh, I have it, but it's this, this, and this. Okay. And there are entities that do shady deals that they will pay you instead of having the carrier pay you. I like my money wherever possible coming from the carrier and setting things up above board. So, yes, you may have it another way, and I'm not going to speak ill of how you have it set up, but don't believe for a second that it is truly possibly above board if it's being paid by somebody else. Um, what is the consistent amount of personal production we should hit before training a new agent and collecting overrides? I think I kind of just said this, but if I didn't, I'll say it again. I don't let anybody work with other producing agents unless you've been at least 3 years into the business. There are a couple of you that are on this call that are laughing because you are the exception to the rule. You and I've talked about it, and you know why you have that exception because your background warrants it. But normally, I don't let an agent who hasn't been in the business 3 years have downline agents underneath them. You don't know what you're doing. So how is it that you can teach somebody and teach somebody compliantly if you're still learning yourself how to, one, build your business, and two, build a client following? That's the blind leading the blind, and you're walking into non-compliant issues. So my rule of thumb is 3 years, and my rule of thumb is that I want you selling a minimum of 100 policies a year. If you can say that you are effectively doing that, then let's talk about you adding on additional people. Because then you have the track record to be able to do it. You also have a big enough business built that when you go spend time to develop your agent who needs a ridiculous amount of your time to get set up and started, you're able to effectively do that without having your business tank because now you're spread too thin. So that's really where you want to go ahead and go when it comes to that. When you set up an LLC, you recontract the agency and you set it up so that all the agency gets paid. You move the book of business. It's a domino effect. There's multiple steps in it. When you go from selling and having a block underneath your social security number to being an insurance agency, but you do want to do that. The other thing about setting up an insurance a business and moving from a social security number to a business, and I get this question all the time, and I'm going to go out of order, is that, well, what should I get set up as? Should I go as a LLC? Should I go as an S corp? What should I do? How does this work? This is, and hear me when I say this because this one pisses me off to the nth when I see it on social media. What should I get what should I set my agency up as, an LLC or an S corp? It is not, I repeat, it is not a popularity contest. No one knows your financial situation other than you and your accountant and possibly your husband, your significant other, and the chick on the side. But it's a private decision. You have to talk with a CPA to figure out what is in your best interest. Some people need to be set up as an S corp. More often than not, an LLC will do just fine depending on what your income looks like and the trajectory of what your business looks like. But you have to ask a CPA that question. That's what you pay them for. As you develop as a business, you are going to have to find a CPA that you trust and or a bookkeeper. Ask me how I know. I went ahead and I vetted one thought that they were doing a job and trusted what he said, ended up that he didn't do what he said he was going to do, ended up having it where it cost me about $60,000. 60. Because he said he filed things that he didn't. So get a CPA that you can trust, that is licensed, that comes very well recommended between others in the industry, or that you know that you can trust that has background in insurance. Get a CPA. Don't do this stuff by yourself. The other one that you're going to want, as you take on employees, you will need an employment lawyer. Yes, you will. Don't think it's not going to happen to you. I guarantee you it will. Because there are people out there that are looking to get paid for not doing anything, and they will intentionally get hired looking to have a lawsuit to sue you just so that they don't have to work. This is the nature. It's human nature, guys. It happens. Get an employment lawyer. You need one. Put them on retainer. Usually costs about $1,000 or two just to have one on retainer. And then what you do is then anytime that you make a hiring decision, a firing decision, or whatever, you contact that lawyer to make sure that they've protected you as to what you are doing. But you have to have those people in place. Other things when you are setting up an agency, and once you've gotten the contract set up and you've gotten the business account set up, and now you've looked at setting up an LLC versus an S Corp, you then need to get the insurance, the agency licensed with a health and life license. The agency must be licensed in everywhere that you personally hold a license. So what you're going to want to do is you are going to want to go on to NIPR after you have your EIN, after you have your business checking account, and you will file for a resident state health and life license in the agency's name. You're also going to need to file for articles of incorporation in the agency's name. You're going to need to get business insurance, commercial business insurance. You are then going to, at that point, you may even need E&O if you have those employees repping, and working with clients under the agency's name. So all of those things are costs. And you also have appointment fees with the carriers for the states that you and the agency are licensed in. So this is when you look at going from Social Security SSN to a full-fledged agency, there's costs that are involved here that you need to be aware of. This is also why I recommend that you're only selling in one state initially, because you can go from an SSN, from Social Security to a full-fledged agency in a singular state, and it's only going to cost you a little bit of money. And then you can pick up all of the resources like payroll, like the lawyers, like the CPA and all of that. So then it builds the business that you need, because you have to then go to the Small Business Association, which the government has all sorts of ways that you can file to help get your business off the ground. And there's all sorts of tools to be able to do that. So you want to be aware of that when you are looking at moving forward. Is there a checklist to use as a reference? Right now, I don't have one built. I may build one for my downline. Stay tuned on it. But because I purposely don't have one done right now for multiple reasons. One, I hate checklists. I hate them. The reason why is because most people get overwhelmed. If I give you a checklist of 10, 20 things that need to be done for you to start in the business and then to grow into the business and to do all of these things, More often than not, an agent will look at that, get overwhelmed, and throw their hands up in the air and go, screw it, I'm not doing anything because I can't do it. There's too much here. And I don't want them doing it without me. And it's not that I'm a control freak, but because we are working on your contracts, I need to be involved in that as your upline, or your upline needs to be involved in that, whoever it is that you choose. You've got to have them involved in these steps. Otherwise, when you go to do that, more often than not, you went off on your own and you screwed it up, and now I've got to fix it. I would rather head it off. So, Rain, rather than do a checklist, I give you 3 action items. Go do these 3 things. Then come back to me. I did this in a comment to you this weekend, right? Do these 3 things. When they're done, come back to me. Then I'll give you 3 more. And then I'll give you 3 more. And then I'll give you 3 more. Before you know it, you've completed an action list that is 50 things long, but you didn't know it. Your success rate of doing that is exponentially higher if I piece it off like that than if I do it where I give you a list of those 20 things and you go, how the hell am I going to do this? Oh God. So, examples of things that people have done without me knowing it that have been very costly to them. They set up they set up their entity incorrectly. They didn't file it with the state correctly. They didn't go get the right licenses that they needed because they filed it as an agency, a managing agency license, or a third party license versus a regular producer license. Or they filed for only a life license instead of getting the health and life license that they needed. Some states it's health, life, and med-sup. To be able to walk you through and to know where those pitfalls are as we're walking through it saves us time. And that's why I try to do that as I'm working with people, because then it takes the anxiety off. So when I look at, somebody asked what entities FMOs, MGAs do for that override. And my answer, if you dumb it down or simplify it, is this. The carrier pays me to not only train you and make sure that you're compliant, but my job is to knock every hurdle that you have, any roadblock that you have, out of your way. From a customer service issue to a compliance issue to a software issue to coaching and you having a meltdown because you're an overtired toddler that needs a whoopee and needs a nap. My job is to get rid of those hurdles and those obstacles so that you can move your business forward. That's my job. And I'm damn good at it. I'm good at it to the point where I actually teach this to other people and lead by example with it. So then it helps everybody else grow. That's why I do it the way that I do. Some people it scares the hell out of, and that's okay. I'm used to that. And then they come back afterwards and they're like, now I understand why you did that way. Yeah. Making things manageable and controlling your anxiety is a very real part of the business relationship that you have with your upline. So most of my crew, I have a third that are very experienced and have been working with me for a decade plus. I have another crew that has been with me between 3 to 5 years. And then I have my new kids, which are my 1 to 3 years with me. And yes, I refer to them as new kids, even though they're grown ass adults. But what that is that my new kids look at it and go, I don't know which end is up. I don't know where I'm supposed to go and why. I'm freaking out about everything because I don't have a direction and I don't have this quite down yet. And I don't know who to listen to and I don't know who to trust. So I'm going to try to listen to everything, which further makes them even more, have more anxiety until they dial it down, step back, slow down, skin their knees a couple of times because I'll suggest something, they won't do it because they know better, or they don't understand why I'm saying it. Well, that makes no sense. I'm not doing that. Okay. And then they'll come back and go, now that makes sense. I didn't realize that. Now you do, right? So that's my newer kids. My midline crew, they now know when to pay attention. They now know that coming into July, all of this back office stuff has been done. We've worked on it together to move them forward, to get their staff done, to look at picking up producers, to going ahead and doing different things. Then from there, they know to have that all locked and loaded come July 1. Because July 1, they're already focusing, they've been focusing on AEP, but now they're really hitting the gas. And the goal from the 90 days from July 1 to October 1 is for them to knock out as much as they possibly can. So come 10/1, they don't have nearly the level of anxiety as somebody that just started out that has no idea of what the hell they're doing because they haven't prepped correctly, right? So those are the things that an FMO should be doing with you. That's what an educator should be doing and leading you to go through all of that. That's primarily how we do this, right? So, yes, they are hard-headed, very much so. So when we go ahead, and I've had a couple people that have asked about talking with me after the fact, you can call the office, you can go on our website, you can click schedule a meeting, and then schedule meetings with anybody on the team to go ahead and find out more. But that's really where you want to go when it's looking at this stuff. So your goal is assess your contracts, assess your business relationships, figure out if the organization is set up correctly. If it's not, tweak it. You want to look at your systems. Do you have the right phone systems? Do you have the right, do you need to redo your laptop? I use Dell laptops. I have an IT guy that manages all, what, 12, 13 of ours. We're all on the same security systems and everything else. I pay somebody for that because I'm not doing it. I don't have the time. There are certain things that you have to look at from a personal perspective when you are doing your goal setting and you're planning for next year. There is a book that I have been reading for the last couple. I actually have it on Audible, and it is called Buy Back Your Time. And I talked about it before. It is by a guy named Dan Martell, and I have never been more called out in a book in my life. And the cool thing with that book is that it is all about a friend of mine way back when. This was back in COVID and when I had left Anthem and I was sick and I couldn't drive. Some days I could barely stand up. So, but I live alone. So I needed somebody to go to the grocery store for me and I needed somebody to go do some things for me and I don't have any family near me. And at the time I didn't have any friends that were close to me. It's just me. What am I going to do? I can't and I'm stuck in my house. So, a friend of mine said, "Have you heard of this thing called Instacart?" And I'm like, "Oh my God. There's no way that I'm going to pay somebody to go do my shopping for me. That is so extravagant. There's no way that I'm going to do this." And he said something that has held to me, and I stick with this to this day. And it's actually the premise of this book, which is take a look at how much your time is worth. Is it really worth your time to go into the CVS and to stop and do these things? Or is it better for you to pay somebody to go do those things and you focus on things that will bring more money into your business? Lo and behold, now I outsource all sorts of things. Some of them it freaks me out because that's one, the assumption is, oh, well, only rich people do that. And, or, oh, you know what? You're lazy. You should be able to do all of these things. Well, I work 60, 70 hours a week. AEP, I'm working 120 hours a week. I don't have time to clean my house. I don't have time to go grocery shopping. I barely have time to pee, let alone do anything else. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and pay to have DoorDash drop me off food because otherwise I'm not eating. There are certain things that you just have to step back and look at as a business cost to get you to move to the next level. And those are the things that you want to step back and look at. As you are moving forward in your personal and your professional development. So now let's talk about staffing. First person that you want to look at is an admin. You want to bring somebody in as a right hand. And I get asked this question all the time. Do you have it where you hire them in as a 1099? Do you hire them in as a salaried person? Do you get a virtual assistant that is remote? What do you do and how do you do this? And that's where you have to step back and look at it. Okay. The first person that you hire, usually, as I said, if you can afford it, you want to have it where that pressure point is usually about 500, 600 apps or clients. And you want them to come in and take all of the non-sales related stuff off of your plate that you hate to do. From your bookkeeping to calls and appointments, to returning calls and setting those appointments, to doing all of your mailers, to doing your cards and your thank you cards and birthday cards, to um, event planning. You go ahead and make the introduction and go to the venue. But after they've said, yeah, I want to go ahead and, you're okay to do bingo here once a month, well, then have your VA go ahead and do the event planning on getting all the stuff for the bingo and creating all of your marketing stuff, doing your social media. The list is long as to what you can have that VA do or that assistant do, whether they are local or whether they're remote, but bring them in as a non-licensed person. If you're freaked out by having them work full time because you're like, oh my God, I don't know that I can afford that, then only bring them in for 20 hours a week. If you can't sell an extra app a week by pulling 20 hours of office work off your plate, you have a problem. And that is what you need to be aware of. So you want to watch for that. You want to look at having effective things that you are doing, that you give to them, and measure them. Once you have your assistant and you've got them rocking and rolling, some pick up a second and a third before they get a second producer. It's your choice as to how you do it, but that's where you want to go. For virtual assistants, Terry, I use a company called Agency VA. Agency VA is who I use. There is a guy named Graydon Rubber that I talk with, and they have US based teams. They have teams in the Philippines. They have teams that are in El Salvador, like my crew. And I deliberately wanted them all in one location. They all sit together. It's basically like I have a satellite office of employees that are there. Go get under the desk. No? Um, he wants to lay down at my feet, but then at the same time, he's like, I'm not sure that I want to go past the big scary shredder. Anyways, so what you do is you give them a list of ideas and job functions that you want them to have, and then they hire somebody for you, and um they will give you people to interview, and you interview them like a regular employee. The difference is that you don't have to deal with any of the HR stuff. You don't have to deal with any of the payroll stuff. They're cheaper. You have to be very articulate with what you want and how you want it. Because they're not mind readers and they're not sitting here in this office every day. Um, but it's very effective. I chose my El Salvador crew because I wanted them 2 hours different than where we are. I also wanted them, it just ended up that the person that we found a fit was in El Salvador for the first person that I hired. And then immediately after I hired him, inside of 3 months, I hired 4 more for this AEP. And then I just picked up another one. He actually started today. Um, but I did that so that um, one does data, one does my bookkeeping and my financials, two work with agents and clients. And then I have one that does presentations and travel arrangements and it works as an assistant to me. I have 10 stateside employees, and all of them here do different jobs as well, that we have. The reason why I have both is that it's different types of work, and given what was going on with the industry last year when I hired them, I didn't know what kind of headwinds that we would have, and I didn't want to run the risk of having to hire somebody and terminate them stateside. And then it just became a pleasant surprise as to how well it all worked out with how that is. Depending on what you have the VA do and the company that you use to do that, yes, it is cheaper to use them. Right now, it's about 2 to 1, two VAs to one US employee as far as their benefits, their payroll, their taxes, because you've got unemployment, workers' comp, all of the city, federal taxes, social security, all of that has to be taken into account on top of what you pay them an hour in the US. And then it's not a bad thing, it's just a necessary evil. You have to take all of that into consideration. Initially, when I first started the agency, my first employee was 1099. And then as I hired more, I've just moved, just like I'm telling you, you move and you change the entire dynamic of the organization as it grows. So for us, we will, by next AEP next fall, we should probably be sitting with 15 stateside and probably, I would say, between 6 to 10 in El Salvador, based on how fast we're growing and where we're doing it. Um, Lori says if you're in California with our crazy minimum wage laws and what we have to pay people, it's a huge cost savings. I have 3 for my agency. 2 are in Peru. They're bilingual Spanish, and I have 1 in Peru that's an admin assistant. Her degree is equivalent to a CPA. So yeah, mine's the same way. My finance person that I have in El Salvador, she has an accounting degree and all the things, which is fantastic. So you really gotta look at what you want and create that. When you are looking at your employees and how to hire, everybody has their own way of hiring. I build high performance teams. I'm known for it. I have been known for it for the last decade or so. I hire for skill set. I am not looking for somebody who, granted, in the ideal world, of course, I want somebody that's licensed, that's been in the business. But I will take somebody that has really good customer service skills, that has been in, let's say, been in food service for a decade and just needs to switch careers. I will do that all day long. I will hire somebody that has call center work, that has worked as a team lead, or that has escalation experience all day long. They may not, that may have been in, well, for PlayStation or for, um, Home Depot or some other entity. But the fact that I know that they can deal with other people having things shift on a daily, plus dealing with unhappy customers as an escalation or a manager, that tells me everything that I need to know that they'll be successful doing what I need them to do as an employee of mine. When I interview, I'm looking for those kinds of skills. I'm also looking for, and I ask them, if you could design your ideal job, what does it look like? What are your favorite things to do? Anything goes. It's not just what I put on the job description. What are your favorite things to do? If they tell me that their favorite things to do are to host parties on once a month for their high school group and that they are coming from a call center background, there is no way in hell that I'm going to hire them to stare at spreadsheets all day long. That's not a fit. You have other people that are like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to be by myself doing my thing. I will stare at a spreadsheet all day, every day, and look at your finances, and I will find money that's missing. And that's their sweet spot. If that's the case, then I'm going to put them in a position that ideally will make them happy. And sometimes they don't know where their strength is. More often than not, they don't. That's where my job comes in to identify that. So when you're hiring, you want to hire for longevity. Nobody wants to start a position as an unlicensed part-time person without the possibility of that eventually growing into something else. So you track them and go, you know what? We're going to start you out like this. If this works best, then we'll go ahead and we'll look at getting you licensed. And then if that works out, then we'll look at you, helping me sell or helping me rewrite clients that, are already on the books come this fall. You have room to move as you do this. And that's how you effectively hire. One of the things that you need to also understand when you're hiring is learning curve. Not everybody learns the same way. Not everybody communicates the same way. That's a problem. Just because you learned and you have your way of how you sell somebody and how you work with a client doesn't necessarily mean that their way is wrong. They may get to all the pieces of the puzzle and make that puzzle and have it be beautiful, but they may have started with all one color. And in the inside of the puzzle, where you like to do all the corners and the edges first, you still get the puzzle made and it still looks beautiful, but how you got there was different. You, as a boss, have to have the grace to be able to allow somebody to do that. You also have to allow them to learn from multiple places. They have to be able to skin their knee. And they have to be able to skin their knee without you going, told you so. Look at you, you idiot. I told you it wasn't going to work. Save that snarky shit for somebody else. Your employees don't need that. They don't want it. That will cause turnover. Allow them the grace to learn on their own. Allow them the grace to be able to say, I don't know. For me, I am hands off. If I can't trust you to in my business, with my business, you have no business being employed by my business. So some of you are looking at hiring people and you're like, well, but I'm afraid I don't want them in my house. Well, I'm afraid I don't want to give them full access to my employees or to my books. What if they steal it from me? Then they shouldn't even be a factor of you going ahead and looking at hiring them. You have to be willing to dive in with both feet, trust the person that you're hiring, and be able to move them forward and develop them and see things in them that they don't see in themselves. It's a partnership. And partnership not in the stance of, oh, we're getting married or, oh, they're going to eventually own the business. It's a partnership in that you both want to get to the same goal. You, as the boss, though, have to tell them what the goal is. So I tell all of my employees it's a 1-year training program. The ones that haven't succeeded with me, and I have had some turnover, are the ones that will roll their eyes when I tell them that it's a 1-year training program and go, yeah, not for me. It'll be fine. No, it's going to take a year. It's going to take a year regardless of how smart you are. It will take 1 year for you with your training with me. I sit them down and I tell them that. I sit them down and I tell them flat out, you and I are going to argue. Give me the grace and the respect to come to me and tell me what I did that upset you so I can fix it. If I don't know, I can't fix it. This crap about holding your tongue and sitting on something and letting it stew for months on end is toxic as shit, and it doesn't do anything for anybody. Address it, move on. If you're still stuck on it, then have a second conversation. Have a third conversation. But after that third conversation, if you guys can't put it to bed, there's bigger problems that you guys need to address. But have a safe space that your employees can give you feedback, give you ideas, and want to grow with you. You have to do that. The other thing that I can tell you is that you need to reward them. And it doesn't necessarily have to all just be money. Take them to dinner. Give them a gift card. Send them to the spa. Do something little. Buy them a cup of coffee. Do something to appreciate those that are helping you get to where you need to be. Because then it is easier when things get hard for you both to work together to move forward, right? So the last piece that I'm going to cover real quick is about when you have producers and when you are looking at picking up producers. So this is going to change on multiple levels. The first thing that you want to go ahead and understand is geographically. Lori lives in California. What Lori pays for a producer and salary and all of that is completely different than me in Cleveland, Ohio, which is completely different than New York City, which is completely different than South Carolina. So where you live and what is competitive as far as wages are concerned for a producer that works for you is going to vary. You got to keep that in mind. The next thing is that how you want to set it up. There are organizations that are very well off that they pay their employee producers $100,000 a year plus benefits and a 401k and $20 an app. Those people are expected to have an insurance license inside of 3 years or inside of 3 months. They have sales goals that they must hit monthly. And if they don't, then they actually start working to figure out what the problem is. And inside of 6 months, if they still can't hit it, they're termed out. You have others that will go ahead and have it where they are a licensed only agent, where they are getting a $50,000 paycheck. They are making $200 an application, no renewal, just only paid on first year business only and no other benefits, but they get $1,000 a month in marketing money. You have it where others are getting paid $20,000 a year in a salary. They make $300 on a new business application. They make $100 on a renewal application, and they are given all of their office stuff is paid for. All of their licensing is paid for. All of their marketing is paid for. So all they have to do is go out and engage in the community and write business. It is going to vary as to what you want your business to look like and your comp plan. It is not a cookie cutter, and I have samples of all of them. So you have to look at that. You also have to look at the ramp up period. If you have somebody that is brand newly licensed that you get fresh out of college, that has to go to school to get their health and life license, then has to get certified, then get all with all the carriers, and then get out into the community and start cutting their teeth, inside of their first 6 months, they may write 1 or 2 apps inside of that 6 months. If you're expecting anything more than that, you have to look at what you put on their plate. Now, that learning curve may be totally different than an experienced agent that you just hired that has experience, that can go out and sell immediately for you. But then I've got 2 questions. One, why aren't you selling and running your own business? And 2, if you left an entity, what happened and what went south, and how is that not going to happen with us? So those are the things that you want to go ahead and consider when you are looking at producers, as well as your own personal time out of production, to be able to go in more into a managerial hat and to be able to make those things happen. So with that, when you have a producer that is 1099 and as a contractor, typically you're setting them up where they are being paid by a carrier and they own their business. I don't recommend that you have a 1099 as a captive, because then you're going to run into possible employment issues moving down further. But we are at the 12 o'clock or the 2 o'clock hour, and I have spent the last 2 hours with you guys, so I am going to end this. I hope that you found this informative. Like I said, this is the beginning of the sketch of what you do and what you need to think about in the next 30 to 60 days as to how you are going to set up your business going into 2025. So sit back, think about all of the things that we talked about. This will be uploaded and it will be on the replay for you guys. And stay tuned for more of the content on social media. Like I said, my YouTube channel is Insurance Unfiltered by Amanda Brewton. You can also find me on social media, Facebook and LinkedIn. And my website, MedicareAnswersNow.com, has all of the upcoming trainings in the daily calendar so that you can find what turns you on. So thank you and have a great rest of your afternoon. And hopefully I see you on Wednesday's call about the state of Medicare for this upcoming year. Have a good day, guys. Thank you.